So thank you for this opportunity. One of my goals since I've been here is to do whatever we can to go to the next level, and what I've always called is professionalize the town and bring it to another level. Together, we have done that. We're in the process of doing that. We still have ways to go in some areas, but in that spirit, I also want to deliver a State of the Town address to the board as well. So with that said, it is with, and please apologize because I am going to read verbatim. It is with great honor that I come before you this evening to deliver the first ever State of the Town address for the town of West Bridgewater. This is a fantastic town. It encompasses caring and experienced leaders, tremendous businesses, and proud residents. Anybody who lives, learns, works, or plays here knows this to be true. Tonight's message is an overview of the financial strength of the town, the many successes accomplished over the past few years, while also acknowledging some challenges that lie before us. First, let me say that this address will depart from a traditional message, as I will provide a cursory synopsis of not just this past year, but the past 3.5 years that I've been privileged to serve as your town administrator. Future addresses will remain on point to an annual message. As I stated in my opening paragraph, the town of West Bridgewater is in great financial condition. As you can see in Exhibit A, which is up on the board, West Bridgewater has become a town that people want to move to and business owners want to locate to. In fiscal year 13, West Bridgewater had an anemic growth in comparison to its tax levy and was a middle-of-the-road performer versus neighboring communities and current peer communities. However, fast forward 4 years to the current fiscal year, and it is evident that West Bridgewater has outpaced most others in both categories. So if we look at Exhibit A, you will see, for example, that in FY13, West Bridgewater in the region was, although it was number 2 on our growth, there was very little dispersion between the bottom and the top. And as we fast forward to FY17, you'll see that the dispersion actually widens and we're actually number 1. Using the Department of Revenue's metrics for our annual budget, I have made West Bridgewater a median budget. Therefore, we have 5 peer communities below and 5 above. And based on that, you can see again in FY13 that we were a little bit below the trend. And now in FY17, out of those 10 communities, we are number 2 and only within 1/100th of a point of number 1. So why is that important to know? Because for those that argue that our commercial tax rate is an impediment to businesses coming to West Bridgewater, the data disproves that theory. Not only is the growth rate continued at a faster pace than our neighbors, the town's commercial tax base has almost doubled the growth on the residential side. Again, this is evident then in B. If you look at Exhibit B, you will see that from fiscal year 13 to fiscal year 16, the last available data that I could get on the Department of Revenue site, you will see that the residential tax classification has increased about 7%, whereas all our commercial, industrial, and personal property is increased at 11%, almost double. So again, not only are we receiving growth, we're growing faster in the commercial side than we are in the residential side. So for somebody that would argue that our tax rate is an impediment, again, the numbers don't prove that. Due to this growth in the fiscal discipline that has been imposed, West Bridgewater has not raised at the traditional 2.5% the past 3 fiscal years. In fact, the town is actually more than $1 million below its levy capacity, signaling great financial flexibility if the town ever needs it. Again, if I could draw your attention to Exhibit C. What happens is that when I put together a budget, I am allowed to be able to raise at 2.5% every year. So in column 1, you will see where it says actual levy. That is actually the amount of taxes that we charged or received or expected to receive during that fiscal year. The levy limit allows us to raise at 2.5%, so we can't exceed that number. And it's never going to be exactly to the dollar because of the configurations. However, you'll see in fiscal year 10 through fiscal year 14, we were maxed out almost at that levy limit. And over the last 3 years, we've been able to stay well below it. So what that allows us to do is that if we ever really receive or got into a real financial pinch, that we cannot no longer only raise at 2.5%. We can actually raise higher than that if we chose to do it because there's available capacity there. But what it really proves is what we have said all along to the townspeople is that this board has wanted to make one of its mandates that we do the best that we can on behalf of the taxpayers. And that chart right there proves that we have done that. During this time period, the town went from having only $11,000 in stabilization, better known as the rainy day fund, to more than $1.4 million today. While it is notable that we have achieved the savings, we did not do it at the expense of the town's infrastructure or its people, nor did we minimize the services that our residents have come to depend on. For example, during this time period, the new $63 million state-of-the-art middle senior high school was built on time and under budget. Thanks to the great work of Treasurer John Duggan, along with advantageous rates, the town bonded the project at a much lower rate than previously anticipated, during saving the local taxpayer. In addition, multiple snow plows and other apparatus for the highway and forest departments were purchased. A new phone infrastructure was implemented throughout the entire town. Reinvestments were made into War Memorial Park. Critical documents for the town clerk's office archived. Safety-related radios and repeater installed for the fire department. New pavement at the town hall in the Howard School. And please note, this was all done by paying cash. The fire department has a new ambulance, while the police department relies on newer vehicles. Again, these expenditures did not come by borrowing money. The only debt incurred over the past 3 years was for the Spring Street roof. And I anticipate proposing a budget to the board this year where we will pay that debt off after having to only make one debt payment. While investments in infrastructure are important, the town is not represented by buildings or cars or asphalt. It is represented by its people. During this time, we provide reasonable raises to all union and non-union personnel. It is important to note that we not only provide additional compensation, but we also agreed to long-term benefit reductions, which were just not sustainable over time, such as vacation time and sick time buyback bonuses were eliminated or reduced. Our unions should be commended for working with me and this board on that issue. One of my proudest accomplishments in the fact over the past 3.5 years is that the board has not had to entertain a single grievance. Chairman Moreira and Selectman Lawrence, you both can recall that previous to this period of time, you saw plenty of them, both from union and from department heads. We must be doing something right to be fair and reasonable at all times for this to be the case. While I can never promise agreements may never come your way again, I strongly believe that if we are motivated by doing what is right, we utilize common sense, we let the facts guide us, that we can continue to have positive relations with all of our employees. I would like to take a moment and highlight some very important specific events that have occurred over the past 3 years. Police Chief Flaherty has done a terrific job in being recognized statewide in his attempt to curb texting while driving. He has also created a K-9 division that has received warm reviews by students and residents. In this past year, a Citizens Academy had fantastic success. Assistant Town Administrator Mallory Aaronstein has gone above and beyond to bring Selectman Lawrence's vision of a dog park to town. Through her diligence, not only will this park come to fruition, but 90% of the expense was achieved through a grant rather than relying on the local taxpayer. This year, Selectman Kinahan's wishes to provide more financial transparency will become a reality. And as discussed earlier, the continued new growth, especially from our commercial partners, has been a wish of the entire board, but has always been a top priority of Chairman Moreira. A day almost does not go by without Selectman Moreira asking me, what can we do to attract more businesses to help the residential taxpayer? All of these accomplishments are notable, but there are significant challenges ahead. While we all agree that our growth rate has many positive elements to it, we are still attempting to fairly and equitably tax all of our establishments with only a part-time assessor. This past year alone, there was a $35 million value increase in the town, which is illustrated in Exhibit D. You will see that over the past 3 years, subsequent to each other, an $18 million increase, a $27 million increase, and then a $35 million increase. And yet, we still only rely on one person to figure out how we're going to tax over $1 billion worth of inventory. There are other staffing issues as well. The Board of Selectmen license every restaurant, auto repair, liquor establishments, just to name a few. And the board is doing it with the same level of staffing that you had 25 years ago. We have received funding for a new roof on the town hall, which desperately needs to be done. We have also received funding to upgrade the building department into the end of the hall. Yet with money in hand, we can't proceed with the renovations because there is no one that is qualified to spec out the project and then oversee them. In addition, the town is very fortunate to house historical artifacts important to the preservation of our history in our new museum. Yet the building has no heat. Water pitches off in the wrong direction at the Council on Aging, and the library has a ramp and walkway that need attention. Being here every day, it is apparent to me that some type of a facility manager is a necessity. I am legitimately concerned about the new public records law. Although the timelines for responses appear similar, the flexibilities that municipalities have been reduced. Add on to the fact that punitive damages can now be assessed. And this looks like a panacea for lawyers looking for a new source of revenue. Furthermore, are the new stormwater regulations issued by the EPA. The town is fortunate to have an extremely skilled conservation agent who has now become responsible for compliance, but he is only part-time. And due to the growth that we've already discussed, he already has his hands full with the wetland issues before the Conservation Commission. Lastly, the town has experienced the retirement of long-term employees. The highway superintendent, council on aging director, library director, deputy fire chief, water superintendent, assistant water superintendent, police chief, assistant confidential secretary to the Board of Selectmen, along with a handful of rank and file employees, have all retired just over the past 3 years alone. It is important to note that in every case, each one of these employees had a tenure of 20 years or more. In the near future, especially here at the town hall, we will lose the institutional knowledge of more employees to retirement. What's worrisome is there is no AAA team. There's no second-level staffers that can fill the void with some semblance of continuity. All of these positions will need to be filled from the outside, and done so without a drop-off of service that the residents expect. And this will not be an easy task. 3.5 years ago, this board faced a similar task. Your administrator, with over 23 years of service, retired. I am still humbled and grateful for the opportunity that you provide to me to become your next town administrator. During this period of time, I feel like I've been instrumental in carrying out the wishes and the desires of you, the board. One such wish of the board was to use my private sector experience to achieve cost savings without sacrificing levels of service. The fact that I've been able to recommend budgets to you that paid cash for all capital budget items. We balanced the budget without using the full 2.5. And we went again from $11,000 to $1.4 million in the bank, recognizes that we have been successful in achieving your objectives. You were also concerned about the cost of the new middle senior high school and directed me to find ways to minimize the cost to the taxpayer. And as you know, the 3 budgets that we have put together have lowered the debt payment by $350,000 per year out of free cash. That means over this time period, we have been able to defray over $1 million that would otherwise have to be paid by our residents and our businesses. Aside from money, there have been other positive changes as well. In 2013, the town's website was tired and ineffective. I set a goal to professionalize the website, but without raising costs. We were able to launch a 21st century website on the same budget that we had in recent years. and I can honestly say that I still hear wonderful comments from our residents about the digital face of the town. Furthermore, in order to connect to our residents and communicate more effectively, using the telephone is no longer the medium because it's antiquated. Mallory has done a terrific job in creating a Twitter account where we have over 400 followers and growing. And we have a consistent presence on Facebook. In fact, we have over 1,300 likes on our Facebook page, even though we continue to encounter technological challenges at 999 for some time. This evening, you approved a mitigation agreement with the developer of a billboard on Route 24. With the assistance of Conservation Agent Delano, I have been able to negotiate favorable terms where we receive monies directly from the developer. The expectation will be that about $10,000 per year will be available now for a new scholarship program to West Bridgewater High School graduates, with the balance being held by this board to fund future projects. This is yet another example where I've been able to use some private sector out-of-the-box thinking to benefit the town that does not cost the taxpayer a single dollar. During my tenure, we have implemented an internship program. We've held an annual debate for local elections, including for a state rep race, and provide educational videos to townspeople prior to selectmen meetings and town meetings. In short, a lot has been accomplished. However, candidly, I've not always been successful. While there are many positives, I would be remiss if I did not also inform you of some failures as well. To this day, I am still bothered by the fact that I missed signs that our previous building inspector was looking at other communities. This is not an indictment on the person we hired. From all accounts, he's doing the job, but he's more than qualified. Nevertheless, I missed his unhappiness. And if I'm going to excel at a high level in managing employees, I have to do a better job of not being caught blindsided. By now, I had hoped to come before the board with a policy for all employees that are currently on the town's health care to be incentivized to unenroll. Every employer in America is facing the challenge of increasing health care costs. And since this is an expense that we are powerless to control, I think it may make more sense to offer an inducement to reduce the amount of employees on our health care plan. I continue to be saddened by the amount of negativity. There's always a buzz on social media. I've highlighted many positive areas that have been accomplished in town over such a short period of time. And obviously this is not an exhaustive list. Yet, social media bloggers continue to focus much more on the negatives. I had hoped with my educational videos, a better website, using social media, instituting even the State of the Town address, that we would be able to create a more trusting relationship with the people that we serve. I feel obliged to work even harder to have a local population that can have positive conviction in all of us. To further this point, I am still working on creating an environment where all employees recognize they work for one organization. I recall coming here and feeling that many departments felt like they were on an individual island. They could see the other islands, but they didn't feel interconnected. A primary goal of mine is to continue to believe in the fact that we are all in the same rowboat. We all have oars. We need to all row in the same direction. Lastly, my most disappointing failure is the fact that I have not finalized a branding logo. This board was so happy with what I had achieved at one time with the branding subcommittee. I am absolutely committed to finalizing a logo by the end of this year so we can begin the fun process of marketing this town with a consistent message. Yet, even with some of these failures, some of them my own doing, the future is very bright in this town. While neighboring towns seek tax overrides just to pay operational costs, and officials lob public insults and file charges against each other, those issues do not exist here at this board and in this town. Our new library director continues to amaze, and you can feel a positive vibe every time you walk into the building. Our new COA director has seen attendance continue to rise as more and more seniors recognize the tremendous value that she and her staff are doing. Finally, as we saw earlier tonight, a unique opportunity exists for the town to retain open space by controlling the land at the golf course on Route 106 without it costing the town a dollar, and this is just too good of a deal to pass up. While I sincerely believe that I, along with many others, some of them mentioned, some not, have achieved a lot, it is this board, the Board of Selectmen, that deserves the bulk of the credit. No one person, acting alone, could ever accomplish all the many things that we have accomplished or need to accomplish. This board, the three of you, along with former Selectman Nancy Maloney, provide the framework and the guidance to make all of these accomplishments possible. As all three of you know, every major decision gets done only after consultation with each one of you. Chairman Marrera has constantly endeavored to prospect for businesses to relocate into the plaza on Route 28 on the Brockton border, and you have spent countless hours working with our regional agencies such as OCPC to make the strip mall become more economically robust. The center of town would not look as well as it does without the innumerable amount of hours that Selectman Lawrence has invested to make this a possibility. Your continued pursuit to request all businesses and municipal entities make every attempt to expand the appeal of the downtown goes more unnoticed than it should. And I know that there is more to come. Lastly, the town has a fantastic opportunity to retain the Riverbend Golf Course at no expense to the town. This mitigates future development and retains open space and grassy hills on Route 106. The reality is that Selectman Kinahan has invested an immeasurable amount of time in reviewing the numbers, helping to prepare the RFP, and reading each proposal from cover to back. I mention these examples because leaders lead even when the bright light is not shining on them. Your dedication, your trust in me to implement your wishes, and the many very good employees that you have appointed allows West Bridgewater to be where it is today. That's why it is easy for me to say that the future is very bright for the town of West Bridgewater. I sincerely believe that families will continue to move here, that choice students will want to be educated here, that seniors from out of town will utilize our COA facility, and developers continue to desire to locate here. This isn't by accident. It doesn't just happen. While there will still be challenges, the town should be proud to have the board, this board, in its leadership position, who will provide the supervision and the leadership, who in turn have appointed the many key people throughout this town to continue to make West Bridgewater better year after year. It is indeed a great place to live, learn, work, and play. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
David, that's an astonishing report that you just gave.